I look at the Bible, and we're going into tough times now. We have the Bible now as a medicine, and this portion in particular. And I see a thread across all the heroes and their journeys in their lives. The journeys prepare the way toward their destination. Each episode, each victory, each failure is growing the people of Israel into who they need to be. The people of Israel walk through the desert and they complain. And I don't think that's a bad thing. I think a lot of early Christian commentators enjoy just the alley-oop slam dunk. The Jews are so annoying, anti-Semitic thing. Look, the Bible even says that they're complaining all the time. The Bible says so. But when you look at their complaints, the Jews aren't punished for complaining. On the contrary, they complain for water and they get water. They complain for food and they get food. They're not punished for it. They're given what they asked for. 3 days. I mean, I can't go 3 minutes in the car without my kids asking for water. Which is like, they're slaves, just not used to freedom. 210 years of slavery. It's like, where was God for 210 years? And now they're like, they're figuring it out. And I think that's pretty legitimate. It's like on a deeper level, they're just discovering, like, what does God mean for them in their lives? God battles empires and pharaohs. Is he actually going to take care of my personal needs? If I get COVID, am I going to be healed? I need to know what's happening here on me personally. And they're figuring it out. And that's like the message of the Bible, that God is a personal God. And when you look at the map of the Middle East, the journey from the Red Sea to Israel, it's a 3-day journey. It's nothing. It's like they walked for 40 years. Those 40 years were training. Those were years of preparation. They spend their time wandering around the desert. That journey, it's not always pretty. It's like a lot of mistakes and there's sins, but they're being groomed, and every mistake is a life lesson learned. A slave, he knows one thing. He knows that tomorrow's pretty much going to be the same as today. A slave lives with a certain level of security and certainty. It's like, so many of their complaints were about food insecurity that they had in slavery. They weren't used to it. The first thing they have is like no certainty at all. They have no idea where they're going today. They have no idea where they're going tomorrow. They break away from slavery, and immediately they're put into a boot camp of faith in uncertainty. Because really, like, what is faith if everything is all measured out? They were put through that boot camp for us, that we should know that when we go through uncertain times, we have a blueprint, a map to look at and to learn from. A slave may not have freedom. A slave may not have like a hope for a bright future, but he has certainty. He knows that he's going to have food today. He knows that the Egyptian master is going to provide his food tomorrow, because Egyptians want to make sure their workforce is productive. They gave their slaves food stamps and free health care. They want productive slaves. So perhaps, maybe, when leaders start offering free food and healthcare, you should question, like, what exactly are these leaders doing? Is that somehow taking away my freedoms? That's a real important question. And for the Israelites, the transition into actual freedom is beyond unsettling. Understandably so. No food on the horizon. Water is scarce in the desert. 3 days. They don't have any water. It's like, what's going on here? Where is God? And so they even say to test God. They were like testing to understand. That's not necessarily a bad thing, but I think that they're a little bit annoying in their reading it. So we know what it's like when we're complaining. It's like a mirror to us. I think it's wrong to see Israel as annoying to God. That's just not true. God says in the book of Jeremiah that as Israel wandered after him in the desert, that's when he fell in love with Israel as a nation. Look at the book of Jeremiah in chapter 2. I remember for you the love of your youth. Your love is a bride, how you followed me into the desert in an unsown land. God loved the Jewish people of Israel for following them into the desert. It's like they continue to follow the pillar of fire in their life. They continue to grow in faith. They begin to see manna provided for them every day. And as they walk in the light, they begin to see the light. And in particular, the next generation that grows up free, liberated from Egypt, stronger in faith, that nation is being groomed to go into the land of Israel. They train themselves to walk in God's light, follow his guidance, train themselves to trust that he's going to provide for them every day. They train themselves to live in uncertainty and know that as long as they're aligned with his mission, walking in his light, then they're on track. They also learn that when they veer from the path of good, when they veer from the path of righteousness, they're going to be corrected. Their journey is preparing them for the destination. The Passover Seder, it's the oldest surviving ritual in the Western world. It dates back to the first Passover, maybe in the reigns of Ramses II, 3,300 years ago. And the story of Passover is the archetype for living. Every Jewish holiday, every biblical holiday, including Shabbat, it's a commemoration of the exodus of Egypt. It's like biblical living is telling us to live towards transition. Every year in Passover, we see ourselves as a part of transition. Expect the transition. Love the transition. We should embrace the transition because the world right now is transitioning. The world is actually giving birth to something new. The prophets call the time before Mashiach birth pangs. And we're quite literally living through birth pangs that are going to bring a new era into the world. And if you don't hear the footsteps of Mashiach now, expect salvation to come now more than ever. It's like, you know, when you type in destination into Waze or into Google Maps, you can click and get the map overview and see the entire route from beginning to end. We just don't have that privilege nowadays. But they didn't have that privilege either. The children of Israel wandered in the desert. They had no idea when they were going to go left and when they were going to go right. They just followed God's light, walking them into the unknown. The journey then was preparing them for their destination. And the journey now is preparing us for our destination. You know, there are a lot of people saying, consciously and subconsciously, just take us back to Egypt. I just want everything to be the way it was. Give me the vaccine and hopefully everything will go back to normal. I'm sorry. Something is being birthed now. It's like a mother giving birth in the middle of contraction. She's like, I don't really want to give birth now. I'd rather just be kind of skinny. It's like, sorry, the birth pangs have begun and the contractions are happening. It's like the birth canal of the Red Sea has birthed the nation of Israel and it's opening right now in our generation. And all we're asked to do is to walk in the light that God gives us. And now know that whatever we have come to us on this journey is preparing us for our destination.
Shalom, my name is Jeremy Gimpel. A few months ago, we started an online seminar teaching life-changing biblical wisdom revealed from the original Hebrew and straight from the mountains of Judea. With global instability on the rise, more and more people are turning to God, realizing now they don't exactly know where to look for guidance. The Bible says the guidance will come from the land of Israel. What started as an online seminar has grown into a global fellowship with hundreds of members from over 30 countries. We're participating in fulfilling prophecy as we learn the Bible through the eyes of prophecy, with a focus on what it's telling about us in our lives today. What you will discover is that the wisdom transmitted thousands of years ago is speaking directly to us in our time right now. Instead of learning the Bible as a religion, it's the Torah of Israel, the living guidance of God. So please join us for our next online gathering and get access to the full library of teachings that the Land of Israel Fellowship is offering. Join now and get an audio series on the prophecy encoded in the book of Joshua, absolutely for free. Just click on the link below or email fellowship@thelandofisrael.com. I don't know how you found this video or what compelled you to click on that link, but I don't believe in coincidence, and I would encourage you to take the next step on your journey toward the Land of Israel. I hope to see you at the Land of Israel Fellowship. Shalom.